Good evening once again, and welcome to Doctor on Call. It is a pleasure to be back. Last week we were out a bit, and so this week we're back, and we do have a very important subject that we're discussing this evening. Dr. Nixon is with us, and we will be bringing her on shortly. But tonight, folks, it's good to be back. We welcome our viewers on GBN Television, our friends on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also our loyal listeners on K105 FM. Tonight we're talking about respiratory diseases. Yes, indeed, we know we are in the peak of the dry season, and of course we know in dry season, as we say, there are a lot of things in the atmosphere. Yes, indeed, pollen, and of course people can be subject to allergies and different things of the sort. So we will be discussing that. There are quite a number of common respiratory diseases that we'll be talking about. Of course, coming at the top of the list, asthma. Yeah, and of course it is a very, very serious condition. And people with asthma, if you have a serious attack, time is very, very important. Time is crucial. Yeah, and sometimes depending on where you live, if you have to get to the hospital, if time is against you, that can be very, very serious. All right. So we will be talking about that this evening. And of course, a little later on in the program, we will be accommodating your calls, of course, and questions if you have any. So we can address them. So it's a good time to say welcome to Dr. Nixon. Good evening, Doc, and welcome. Doc, are you hearing me? Doc, can you hear me? Okay, so we seem to be experiencing a little difficulty. We'll be back in just a moment. We just take a short break, and we're going to come back. We're going to get this rectified. I'll be back with you in just a moment. Stay with us.
WeatherGuard Pro. For every project, there's only one Pro.
From the farm to the store to your home. Supporting farmers, catering for your needs. The Food Fair Supermarket provides fresh fruits and vegetables from its 2 convenient locations for over 5 decades. The Food Fair Supermarkets, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Do you have muscular pain that no one can find a solution for? Are you tired of taking meds for joint and other pains? Hills and Valley Medicare Center on Grenville Street, St. George is here to help you heal. We will help you map a path to your full recovery. Visit us Monday to Saturday for a consultation with our on-site doctor, physiotherapist, and massage team. You will be glad you did. Our Medicare Center, a proud member of the Hills and Valley group of companies. On the hilltop or in the valley, we are with you wherever life takes you. Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Your health is our business.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Our upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern, environmentally safe crematorium, the only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment. As you prepare to enter your loved one into eternal rest, visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
Records at the traffic department shows that a total of 1,447 accidents were reported for the year 2012, which includes 3 road fatalities. 2,946 accidents were reported for the year 2022, which includes 8 road fatalities. This is a significant increase of 104%. This is alarming. When a family tragically loses a loved one, does it matter whether by means of a gun or a motor vehicle? To avoid accidents, drivers and pedestrians alike must exercise extreme caution when using the road.
Join us on Caribbean Medical TV as we discuss a topic close to the heart of our Caribbean people and hear the experiences from the leading experts in the region about heart disease, the major contributing factors, what to look for, and why we are seeing heart attacks in younger men and women. Be viewing Caribbean Medical TV right here on this station.
can't wait to see my granddaughter.
You mentioned the wing high, then you have things like man, you must come back, you know. We have the low power there.
When you push it for jump, it is kind of like the same man, and it's just different name for the same kind of thing.
And last but not least, I just want to say to all the men who saw me, call me, and ask for a piece of cake. I'm baking this weekend.
Join us Fridays at 8 on GBN Television, K105 FM, GBN's Facebook page and YouTube channel for We Culture.
No, that's not how you cross the pedestrian crossing.
Really? One day I just woke up and I saw pedestrian crosswalks on the road. No one really showed me how to use them properly.
Well, this is how it's done. You never cross before doing these things. They might save your life. First, when you get to the crosswalk, you stop. You look left, you look right. If there's a vehicle coming, you put your hand out, making eye contact with the driver, indicating that you want to cross. And only when the vehicle comes to a complete stop, you quickly cross to the other side.
Stop, look, hand out, eye contact. Wait for pedestrian to cross to the other side, then you happily continue on your journey. This message is brought to you by this group of insurance companies, the Traffic Advisory Body, and the Traffic Department.
Sisson's WeatherGuard Pro. For every project, there's only one Pro.
From the farm to the store to your home. Supporting farmers, catering for your needs. The Food Fair Supermarket provides fresh fruits and vegetables from its 2 convenient locations for over 5 decades. The Food Fair Supermarkets, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Do you have muscular pain that no one can find a solution for? Are you tired of taking meds for joints and other pains? Hills and Valley Medicare Center on Grenville Street, St. George is here to help you heal. We will help you map a path to your full recovery. Visit us Monday to Saturday for a consultation with our on-site doctor, physiotherapist, and massage team. You will be glad you did. Our Medicare Center, a proud member of the Hills and Valley group of companies. On the hilltop or in the valley, we are with you wherever life takes you. Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Your health is our business.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Our upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern, environmentally safe crematorium, the only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment. As you prepare to enter your loved one into eternal rest, visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
Okay, welcome back everyone, and we do apologize for that. We were experiencing some technical difficulties there. I think we have it sorted out now, and so we can start our discussion. As I said earlier, tonight we're discussing respiratory diseases, and Dr. Nixon is with us. Doc, good evening and welcome.
Good evening to hot Grenada. We're hot. We're hot as hot can be.
Yes, it is. It is indeed. Of course, we are in the heat of the dry season, and we know what can happen during dry season, especially people who have respiratory conditions like asthma and COPD and so on. Things can go wrong for them, and tonight we want to discuss some of those. There are some very common ones. We may not be able to get through all of them, but of course, conditions like asthma, COPD, lung cancer is a very common thing as well, bronchitis, pneumonia. So Doc, whatever we can get through, and I will leave it up to you to decide on which ones are more prevalent, based, of course, on your practice, what you experience most, and put that in context with the season that we are experiencing.
So here's what I want to. Good evening again, Grenada, and it's really been too hot. This is May. We started having this heat from as early as the end of March, and it has not improved. I was kind of fooled a while ago, just about 8 o'clock, when I thought I heard rain. There was actually rain and some big drops, but not enough to get my head wet when I went out there. It rained, you can hear it, you can smell it, but not enough. And this is probably going to persist for a long time. We're getting full into the dry season, although I heard someone say today they were preparing their ground to plant in, I guess, 2-3 weeks for Corpus Christi. 3 weeks. But I don't know how that's going to go, because it looked like this dry season out to dry us out. With the dry season comes a lot of loose dirt and, fires. I live in the northeast of St. George's, and on Sunday there's this big fire, big truck, had to come twice, and it was just a bushfire.
Yeah.
And even though they're not houses very, very close, bushfires crawl and creep and jump streets and all of that. So you have to make sure that we're prepared. I think we can do a lot to help the challenges that the fire services will have. Already there's not much water. So I think everybody has to be responsible. There are things you just don't do. You don't light fires just because. I'll show you a little story, because I was a story. About 20 years ago, a little more than that. A friend of mine owned a house in a complex in another island that used to be like a villa hotel, a hotel of villas. So it's a single big property that older couple owned. And eventually, when they decided they were going to go to business, they sold the houses. So you're going to have 2 houses, John, but you have an individual house to yourself. And my friend owned this house that had shingle roof. It's the middle of it's probably like July. And like the days we've been having, it's hot, but it's quite windy. So I can actually hear a kite in the sky, because people have their kites, and the kite goes all night because there's some wind, always whirring, right? And the lady who lived in an apartment, the tenant, decided that this Julie mango tree just dropping too much leaves, and I'm here to idle on this Saturday. So I'm going to sweep up the leaves, and I'm going to, maybe I should burn them now that I'm finished. And so she did. And a gust of wind came and took a couple lit Julie mango tree leaves and put it on the shingle roof. And by now the house is finished burning. People say fire went like a shingle roof.
Yep.
It just burnt. Let me tell you where the fire service is. The fire station, let's say our fire station is in St. George's. Up to probably have to drive to when you get to the avenue and turn into the lane. When you get into the lane and turn into the avenue, same kind of terrain, drive all of a sudden and drive up this hill, right? And the house is right there. And by the time the fire truck got there, all they had to do was cooling down and protecting other neighbors. And I say this to tell people that I've seen some tremendous fires on Chantilly Hill. I've lived in this area all my life, and as a child, I never saw fires in Chantilly. Right? I've seen some tremendous fires in the last few years on Chantilly Hill. Right? People walk around with drop of cigarette butts and stuff. So apart from the fires and the fact that you really don't have the capacity, the level of workers and the number of trucks and all the rest, right? The number of firemen and stuff to stop these crazy fires means that we have to be responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If it's blowing, if wind is blowing, they ask us not to light fires, right? Especially outdoors. You might think you have it contained. No, you don't. It's better to have some leaves in your yard and no way to cover yourself and sleep at night. I mean, it may not be your house. It might be a neighbor's house that you burn down. A lot of us still own wooden houses and older houses that have had several coats of paint or different kind of wood that is very, very flammable. It just catch a fire very quickly. You just have to be really very careful because apart from being having respiratory conditions, you don't want to have to be out there and don't have any sense of safety. Besides, in a month, we're in hurricane season. Can't afford to lose our homes. All right? And I say this to say that I saw a release from the Ministry of Health in another island today, which is very pertinent to us. It says, the Caribbean is currently under a heat wave, and our response will make a huge difference to our health team. That's all of us, right? The projections of this heat wave could last up to August, September. A heat wave is only have 3 days. We have 3 months. We're in trouble. We are in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Some common effects of heat waves on the humans are dehydration that can lead to unconsciousness or death. Remember we talked about sunstroke and
yes, we did
earlier. And there's some things I think those are some of the things that we need to go back on. Because we can talk about the respiratory stuff, but we need to talk about the other general stuff and the age groups that are at risk. The people who are at more risk for having bad effects, of this extra heat that we experiences. Can have heat reaction, of course. You can have psychological distress. It get hot. You just really lose your mind. It's just so hot. So what do we do? Maybe we can talk about that later. How do we prevent ourselves from being directly affected by the heat? But we know there's a lot of heat going on, and there are things we need to do. So you talked about the respiratory illnesses that come with a dry season, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you ask children, what makes your asthma common? Because, we see asthma in children a lot more. Not that big people don't have asthma, but children, it's very disheartening to see a child who has a severe asthmatic attack. Asthma is a disease, a respiratory disease, a disease of the respiratory system where we breathe in and out, where the person with asthma, with a disease, reacts excessively in an extreme way when they come in contact with things that trigger their asthma. Make it come on, okay? So what are these triggers? Dust. Most people tell you dust and pollen. Pollen, the little powder that come off our plants, and we see it because the wind blowing everywhere. And my daughter called me then and said, my car is green this morning. She actually drives a gray car. There was just so much pollen where she lives. Right? And it's not just in the Caribbean. When you get pollen, especially in North America in the spring, and in more temperate climates, you get a lot of pollen coming off the trees in the springtime when all the flowers are opening, and you literally see it coming out, because we see the Sahara dust. Right? So they tend to trigger off. So let's say I was asthmatic, Godfrey, and you are not. And we're walking on, what's the dustiest road you know? Port Highway, let's say.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people walk along Port Highway, people go buy food and stuff. When it used to be really called Dusty Highway, where they paved it and had the containment of the dust. So you and I walk on Port Highway, right? I'm an asthmatic, you're not. I have asthma, you don't. So we walk from Burns Point by the gas station and we get to GBSS Gap, right? And there's all this, every so often a big gust of dust come and all the rest. When you go to GBSS, you start coughing a little, you cough and you sneeze. Say, man, this dust, right? And we walk and you're fine. But by the time I reach on the roundabout, I'm wheezing. Because asthmatics, people with asthma, have this extra, more outstanding, more worse response to those things that are going to trigger off the asthma. So this dust, instead of, yes, I might cough, but I'll cough to the gas station, down to Kirani James, down to Foodland, and I'm still coughing. and I sneeze and my eyes get red and I run and stuff, and then my wheezes come on. Because my mucous membranes in that line, the lining of my respiratory tract is a little more sensitive, a lot more sensitive. But if I don't have my pump, that I, my inhaler that I breathe, if I don't have a place I can go and get, it can be a very distressing situation for me. Right? It might also be my first attack of asthma. Let's say I didn't know. Right? So, an asthma on its own, what does it do to us? It makes us sick. You have difficulty breathing, and asthma is a disease at the night in particular, it will get worse. And, it takes out of school time and recreation time. You get very tired. You have problems with breathing. And asthmatics have difficulty breathing out. So you see them like this, right? Hands up, and they can breathe in, but they have to force to breathe out. And it is not a natural thing for us to have to force to breathe out, because breathing out is supposed to be spontaneous. When you have asthma, these air sacs get filled and filled. You can breathe in, right? Because you feel like you don't have air because your chest is not moving. And then there's this carbon dioxide that gets in there because what is being used is being used, right? But you can't breathe out. What happens? The airways have muscle, the little strips, the further part of the airway, the part closer to your chest wall, have the airways, you have your trachea, which is a breathing tube, and you go down to the bronchus and go to the bronchi and go to the bronchus. And as the smaller it gets elastic, and the elastic literally contracts and makes the airway smaller. But apart from that, you have a lot of inflammation. Remember, you've just been coughing a lot, right? So everything gets swollen and red, and then you produce all of these thick secretions. So not only does the airway constrict, right? It doesn't just constrict, so it's normally like this. Not only does it constrict, you also have swelling of the lining, right, and all of that thing. So it's a very distressing experience for the people who have asthma. What do we do? There are things that we can do in the house, because also cockroaches are what trigger off, the urine from the cockroach actually triggers off asthma in our children. What do we do? Well, if it's that bad, you might have to keep your child inside, because there is dust. Plus, we have Sahara dust that's dropping every day like it's gold. But we have Sahara dust. Dust your own house, mop clean, wipe down with water. And maybe just to keep your windows closed. I know we need a little air, but maybe we need to keep our windows closed so you don't have so much dust from outside coming on. Or you're going to have to wipe with water as often as possible. Your walls, vacuum your bed, or sun them, beat them, what are you going to do? Because your children with asthma are going to have challenges. If your child is already, or you already have asthma, you have to use your medications that will prevent. Most people have 2 inhalers. The brown inhaler is the one that keeps down the inflammation, right? So all that swelling and all that secretions doesn't happen. It contains. But when the extreme point comes, remember the airways constrict. Yeah. That's when you use your blue inhaler. You would hear yourself wheezing every time you try to breathe out, because the space, you can't whistle with your mouth open unless you name Godfrey. Right. And right? But to whistle, you have to. That's what you hear, because the airways have closed down so much. So in forcing out the air, it comes to this very narrow passage and you wheeze. You get this wheezing sound. So make sure your children use inhalers. And a lot of us use inhalers, but we don't use inhalers correctly, because it's kind of hard to coordinate shaking a pump, putting it to your mouth, breathing out, holding, pumping it, breathing in, hold your breath. It's a lot. So there are other things you can do, like use a spacer. A spacer is a mechanism that helps you, and you've seen them. It looks like a little mask with a thing on the bottom, a barrel at the bottom, and a drum. So you put your inhaler at the bottom, you do your 2 puffs, and especially when you have children, you put a mask over their face, right? And tell them to keep breathing. And they breathe 3 to 5 minutes, and they get most of the medication that's down inside that spacer, without having to say, get distressed, because that alone will cause enough distress trying to just coordinate the movement. Or some people, I tell my patients, if you don't have a space at home, get a cup, a plastic cup, make a little space in the bottom just for the pipe of the inhaler to go in. Put it over the child's nose, and spray the 1 or 2 puffs that you're supposed to spray, and tell the baby to breathe. Tell the child, just breathe, just breathe. Encourage them. breathe with them, and you'll see them relaxing because the medication is in there. Seal it around their face as much as you can and get them to breathe. But it is very important if you can get a spacer. In some spaces, spacer comes like part of the prescription, right? Where you have a good healthcare system. If you're going to have a thing, do you have a spacer? It comes in and you get whatever benefits you get. It should be part of the thing that our insurances allow us so that we can have better care, because that is offering better care for our patients. So that is asthma. Bronchitis is kind of asthma cousin.
Before we move, Doc, before we move on to bronchitis, I just wanted to ask, because I was doing a little reading today on whole asthma thing, and I noticed that there were a number of different types of asthma. What I wanted to ask is, so for example, there's one listed as allergic asthma, and then you also have nocturnal asthma. What I want to and based on what I'm seeing here,
I think of classification and when it comes on. So the people with allergic asthma, you can identify what it is that triggers off your asthma, or you might be allergic to something you eat that triggers off your asthma, or your cat dander, or cockroach urine, things that irritate you, literally irritate, and a lot of us. But the bottom line is that it's the same thing, the same physical conditions.
Right, yeah. Okay, great. Because I was going to ask whether or not they are...
And the truth is that asthma really tends to manifest itself more and become a little worse. So the children tell you, I'm just fine in the day, but when evening time comes, when I go in and usually outside play and run up and down on the grass, at that time, they start coughing. And your mother will tell you, come inside, because your grandmother will tell you, have tizzy, and tell you to come inside. So, but the truth is, most asthma symptoms tend to manifest themselves severely.
Right. So it's a case where, for example, when the temperature drops, the likelihood of you getting an attack is more.
You can get attack because those exchange, it does cause some reaction on your respiratory system. You know, you're home and like, Lord, it just get cold and my nose stuffy. But the same thing that lines your nose, lines your airway. So therefore, the same response will be held everywhere.
Right. And okay, great. So for example, if you are allergic to, let's say, cat dander, right? Even if there isn't a cat present in the room, as evening draws and temperature drop, you still at risk of, the asthma coming on. And
I tell you, sometimes you don't even have to be a cat. Somebody could have had contact with a cat and come close to you.
Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah, that is what I wanted to, and of course we did speak about the wheezing and stuff like that. So
the first thing, I want to tell asthmatics, because people who have asthma believe that they don't have asthma until they start wheezing. The first and most predominant symptom of asthma is the cough. That persistent, very high pitched. You understand? You're coughing. It doesn't. Like I said, as evening comes closer, it goes back. The herald of cough, that trumpet that say, "Hey, an asthmatic attack is coming on," is that cough. So if you know your child has it, I listen to all my patients say, "I've been coughing. Let me hear you. Let me listen to you. Do you have asthma?" No, but my cousin does, my mother does, my auntie does. No, and remember, some of us are not going to manifest the symptoms overtly, even though we're prone to having the disease. And it's only until we come to that point where we meet those triggers, the things that make your respiratory tract respond.
So how do you diagnose it then? So someone that probably it's in there, maybe not as acute as when you get a serious attack. How would you diagnose it?
Yes, you don't know it until you get sick. And that's why we kind of need to listen to our patient's chest when they come into our office. Somebody comes with cough, make sure and ask the doctor to listen to your chest when you breathe out. Because remember, that wheezing thing comes because your airways are closed. If you have what we call expiratory wheezes, that is one of the symptoms that can confirm the fact that you actually do have asthma.
Okay, wonderful.
Or if you have a nebulizer in your office, if you go to the hospital, they might nebulize you. If the airway is open, you can say, oh, that's what's happening. And often asthma runs in families. So you should have some high index of suspicion. You should be saying, maybe because my cousin or my grandmother used to.
Right. Okay, so someone gets an asthma attack, a serious asthma attack, and that person, let's say for some reason, did not get their puff. They probably forgot, or they had the puff, and then they get to realize, hey, well, that puff, I can't use that puff anymore.
The pump empty,
and
yeah.
then, yeah.
And there's a way to test it,
Yeah, and then you get an attack. You probably live in Grenville, and you have to travel a good half an hour to get to, let's say, the hospital or medical station where you can get nebulized. What can be done then to ensure that person does not get to a point that can be detrimental?
I tell you, the first thing is just being aware. The other thing is being responsible. If you know that you are an asthmatic, you always have to have your pump, especially that blue pump. You use your brown pump every day for control, but your blue pump is a rescue pump because you really feel the discomfort when your airway is shut down, right? When you can't breathe. Yeah, you would have the inflammation and the mucus, and so you cough up the mucus, you can breathe a little again. But you have to have your pumps, right? And I think everybody who prescribes medication, find a pharmacist that you know, that way you always buy a prescription. So if it's a Saturday evening and you can't find your doctor, you can always go and ask the pharmacist, please. And the pharmacist already has you in the system. I tell my patients, kind of build a relationship with your pharmacist, because the pharmacist is actually going to solve your problems when it's most needed. Your blood pressure medication, it's going to give you someone till you see a doctor. But you need to find one doctor. One pharmacist. We tend to go shopping along. At least a couple of pharmacies that you know in your vicinity. One in your house, one in town, that kind of stuff. One in your community.
So final thing on asthma before we move on. If so let's say I'm in a vehicle with someone who has an asthma attack. We don't have the puff. That person is wheezing. The airways it's blocked, and they're fighting for breath. What can I do to help that individual?
There's probably not a whole lot you can do from a medical standpoint, but I find that if you can try and at least get a mucus plug out of there, that might help. So you can give some thuds. Don't be afraid to make a fist and give thuds on the person's back, because that tends to get rid of the mucus. The thick. It looks thick. It looks like starch, right? And this big plug tends to block the airways and really create lots of challenges. That would give you some time, but be unselfish and take them to the hospital.
Right. Yeah. I was just wondering if there's any sort of, home remedy. Yeah. No. Because there's some conditions.
I won't even tell you the home remedy I know.
There's some little things that you can do. But
like what areas are you considering?
I don't know.
Things you need to give your asthmatic is a lot of fluids. A lot of water. Because you want to loosen that thick cold, that thick secretion. It's thick. It looks like when you boil starch and the starch gets thick. Okay? Like tapioca, like baby food, thicker than that. Because it would stick, right? So encourage a person to start drinking so they can be properly hydrated, and you can kind of fluidify that thick secretion. And even just doing the thuds on the person's back, it can start to move the secretions.
Right. What about using, let's say, because you say that mucus there, it's like starch. What if you use, let's say, something like a warm or a sort of hot cloth on the person's chest? Not hot to burn them,
that should
but
help
to help.
A little.
Yeah,
and also doing inhalations should help. But that is not going to solve your problem, because you want to get those airways non-constricted.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. I'm just thinking about some measures here, at least to keep that person going.
In the interim, so one of the challenges, and this is what I've seen from working in ER, you see the same asthmatics, right? And every time you see them, they're a little more distressed. They don't feel more distressed because they become kind of accustomed to the discomfort. But then we've seen some of them pass away. So you don't wait. This is not something you wait for. And sometimes patients will come at 10 o'clock and say, my asthma's coming on, but I was watching it. You don't need to watch your asthma. You just need to fight it early in the day. so you can sleep in your bed in the nights. You know, people watch and they're watching to see what will happen. You already have asthma. You know what is going to happen, what is most likely to happen. So don't stay and watch it. You know, asthma is considered one of the emergencies, especially asthma in children, right? So you have to make sure that your child is prepared, is protected from having severe, especially in the nights, because if this thing come in the night and you live away from the country, what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What I saw one morning in the ER. This girl literally came. You know, when you have a lettuce leaf that's no good, that it spoiled, just flap. Came in, and the grandmother, because the mother left her, the grandmother, like we used to do, leave the child with the father's mother because you need to go to party, right? And the grandmother came with the child at 6 o'clock in the morning because she lived so very far and could not get transportation. And the child was almost dead when the child was brought into the ER, right? We don't want to have anybody suffer like that. Because remember now, if your body lacks oxygen over a prolonged time, you'll not die, but your brain will.
Right.
Your brain will get damaged. And you don't want that to happen in a child. Because, you know, they're already so fragile.
Right. And hence the reason why I've been sort of trying to get if there are any little things you can do, you know.
Just move and don't wait for nighttime.
Right. Okay. Good.
The truth is, Grenada is still relatively small and not going to get any bigger. And it's getting smaller because we have more and more access to getting to places. You know, we have more cars on the road. I saw a friend today who was living in Australia for 50 years who says, boy, I stop drive when I come here because there's just too many cars on the road. So we have enough transportation. And I guess we have to do the good neighbor thing if a child gets ill. You might be upset that the mother waits until nighttime, but the truth is, taking a child to hospital, watching that child change when he's nebulized is all the joy, all the compensation that you would need.
Right. So we're moving on. And folks, you can give us a call. The number is 435-2041. We're opening up telephone lines early if you have any questions you'd like to ask. Remember, we're the dry season, and of course, people who are allergic to different things, you want to be very careful. And we still have our mask. So it might be a good idea if you're going out on these very hot days, you know, when it's very windy, it might be a good idea to keep your mask on, you know, to avoid inhalation of too much dust and pollen. Doc, we have a caller on the line. Let's go to the telephone. Doctor and call, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
How are you?
Good.
It's a nice topic tonight. Well, my name is Morboni from Tempe, and there is a plant by the name of lapit. It's very expensive in England. It's $50 for one. And there was a lot in Grenada, just trained all over the place. And that lapit, I understand they make plastic rope with it. It's very good to keep inside of your house. And you're going to plant once a week. A lady came about 2 months ago and asked me for a plant, and I give it to her. I feel so happy when I give it to her because she lives so close to me, and she never knew I had that plant. And when I was living in Aruba, every store, every bank have a plant in it. And it's so expensive in England, $50 for one plant, and we have it trained all over Grenada. I will urge people to always have a plant in their house. The name of the plant is lapit.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much.
So I think that's a good lesson. If you look at it in the wider sense of the whole lesson. So it talks about keeping the air in your environment purified.
Yes.
We talked about a little, but cleaning, removing the air as much as you can. Some plants do remove impurities in the air, but dust is a different story. You have to wipe it and clean it off and vacuum it out. But thanks, Miss Merle.
Yeah, I've heard about this. Also, the aloe plant. I've also heard that it's an excellent plant to keep.
Yeah, and the mother-in-law's tongue and those plants.
Well, lapit is the same mother-in-law tongue.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah. Lapit is the same. It's the same mother-in-law tongue. Let's go back to the telephone. Yeah, Doctor and call. Good evening.
Hello, good night.
Yes, good evening, caller.
Good evening.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, caller.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Hello, good night. Listen, I have a son. He had asthma when he was 5 years old,
and I gave him cutlets and salt. And from that, he never suffered with asthma anymore. Because he used to say the pump scratching his chest.
Have
a good night.
Hello.
He's gone.
Yeah.
What you said, cutlet and salt?
That's what I didn't get. I was trying to get from
I want to address that. So there are some tried and proven home remedies. What is it? Traditional treatments that work. And that's okay. I won't tell you what they thought I had asthma. I won't even tell you what I get for my I'll tell you in a little while what I got for my asthma. But I never had any asthma. Okay, I used to have allergic episodes. I used to have an allergic condition, but people thought it was asthma. People need, however, to remember that you can't continue to use it if you don't get a resolution on use. You get me? Because of the potentially fatal nature of asthma, you can die. So if you remain in a state of asthma while you're treating it over 3 days, it's called status asthmaticus, in an asthma state, right? Usually those people need to be hospitalized inside the ward, ICU where it is, right? So you have a child who might come into the ER, you keep them the day, 2 days, third day they go into the ward, right? Sometimes people believe in the therapies, and that's okay. I'm not challenging anybody's belief system. What I'm saying is, if it don't work, you have to go to a different form of treatment. If it works, it works. I don't know. I cannot vouch for anything. That is natural medication, but there are people who can. All I'm saying, if it does not work, you have to go to the hospital, to the emergency room, so that that child or that person can have the airways open again and they can breathe free. Remember also that if you have persistent cough and you have all the things that's going on, you keep on breathing and you don't have good air exchange, that child will probably develop pneumonia or bronchopneumonia. So you don't want to have the complications, asthma, on top of everything else. Okay?
Right, wonderful. And I like where you went there, if this is not treated, and it takes us to the whole issue of the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD. We've heard about that. Tell us, what is this, Doc? And let's talk a little bit about it.
So COPD, as it says, chronic meaning long time, long last, there for a long time. We've been having obstructive meaning as it blocks. Pulmonary as is related to lung and disease. So long lasting over a long time blockage of the lung because of what underlying disease. Smokers are the people who have more COPD. If you like tobacco and if you like weed, I tell everybody, if you can see the smoke, it's not good for your chest. If you can smoke weed that don't have no particle dust, you're good, right? But if you're smoking and you can see the smoke, you walk through the smoke and you cough, right? You cough because what you see looking white is actually dust particles and whatever toxins and stuff that's suspended in that puff of hot air, right? And you want to make sure that you can take care of it. So COPD comes in people who have long-standing respiratory problems. Smoking and asthma, people who have had asthma / long-time bronchitis, right? You have a lot of loss of the alveoli. Those are the air sacs tend to happen. So, and everything becomes very thickened. So you have poor exchange of oxygen, right? Between the lung and the blood vessels that run across the lung that take oxygen to other parts of the body. Oxygen is essential for life. Okay? You lose your foot if you don't get onto your toes. You lose your eyes if you don't get to the back of your head. You lose your heart and you die, or your brain and you have a stroke if you don't get oxygen in those places, right? If you're running and your legs start to hurt, it's because you don't get enough oxygen into the muscles. That's why we train before we do athletics, right? So COPD has its features, the cough, the frequent bringing up of ugly stuff, but especially the difficulty to breathe. By the time you develop COPD, you may have lost so much of your normal lung tissue that is hard, that is irreplaceable anyway. We don't regenerate. We don't make new tissue from that which we mash up, as we just cut and get a new heart or get a new breast when we have cancer, whatever it is. We do not make any new organs except our liver might regenerate somehow. Okay. COPD also, you've seen people, let me tell you, you've seen people who walk around with a tank of air in their bags. You go to the airport, you see them all the time, on train in New York, wherever you are, and even here, some of them do have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or COPD. Difficult to treat, worse to have to live with it, because there's no way that you can heal it. You need lots of medication, you have shortness of breath, you have chest pains, you have constant coughing, you get frequent infections, right? And you need to take a lot of medications. You can use some of the pumps that they use for asthma because it creates a little bit, it decreases the inflammation when you use the steroid part. And of course you can, sometimes you have a little bit of airway shutdown, because also that mucosa gets very sensitive, so whatever comes in there. So if on a good day, when there's sunshine and rainfall and the air is fresh and clean, and you can sing, I can see clearly now the rain is gone, you're having difficulty to breathe. Try to think the difficulty that people who have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, right, who even on those days can't breathe, try to imagine the difficulty those people experience when you have all of that particle dust in the air, whether it's from Sahara dust, whether it's because the neighbor decided he burning the garbage behind his house, whether it's because the guy over the road decided he burning coals this week and all the wind blowing down to your house, whether it is you like a frequent caller who has all the challenges of the cane dust constantly being burnt, the smoke from the cane field being burnt and all the rest of it. So try to imagine having to live with COPD under those conditions, and where people don't have access to a lot of the mechanisms that can help to make them feel better, like having an oxygen tank. That thing is expensive. It is extremely expensive. I don't remember what it cost, but it's a lot of money, okay, to get. And I don't talk about like $20 and $30 for a gallon tank. It's a lot of money, right? So let's think about it and think about the quality of life, because COPD will occur in people in adulthood, mostly in people in adulthood, and think of what will happen if you can't work. If you get tired, you get very tired when you do anything. You walk on the bus back to the Esplanade and you have to stop 6 times to catch air because it's so bad, or you just can't go out, right? So again, take precautions in your house, keep the dust down, make sure you have your medications, stop smoke for Pete's sake. People who smoke and get sick with it. So what? I'm sick already. I might as well enjoy the cigarette. No, you might as well not. Okay.
Another common thing. People say, I have to go anyway.
Yeah, and something have to take me out.
Yeah.
Right. But that's kind of selfish, because usually somebody have to help you walk over there, and it's kind of hard for them. Right. So inhalation sometimes help, doing the breathing thing, because it gets the secretions out and makes you feel not so bad.
Right.
But again, we need to prevent the things that cause us to have those diseases.
Right.
And keeping, staying in a dust-free environment and not smoking.
Doc, let's go to the telephone. We have a call on the line. Doctor and call, good evening. Hello. Doctor and call, good evening. Hello, caller, good evening. Okay.
So there's a treatment that is usually, that we don't use a lot here. I've never seen it used, and maybe there are doctors use it, but I've not worked in a hospital here, so I don't know what modalities they use for managing asthma. Adrenaline, epinephrine, same thing, is probably the first line of treatment, but you have to monitor it very well. So they push it under your skin, like when they're giving you a vaccine. They don't stick it on, they push it under the skin. They actually leave the little needle, like a insulin needle.
Yeah, in there.
Right? And then they give you half in a dose, and then they push it slowly. But adrenaline reopens your airways. So I have a theory. In Grenada, and elsewhere in the Caribbean, because I've consulted with some of my friends in the Caribbean, they believe that if you give the child water that lizard dancing, the asthma will go away.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Yeah.
So if I take you, right, and I drop you in a basin of water and you can't swim, which hormone you think your body is going to produce?
One of them that causes that induces fright. Yeah, adrenaline. Yeah, fright.
Flight.
Yeah.
Fight or flight. Adrenaline. So you don't think lizards produce adrenaline too?
Of course they do.
So that's my theory. My theory is that's probably what happens. But guess what? We can try old wives thing. I don't know that I'll take a coconut water and put a lizard now, because there's so much toxins on the ground from all of those environmentally unsung means of fertilization and killing of grass, herbicides and stuff. You don't really want to do that, okay? And the same things that come from the atmosphere with all the toxins might be on the ground where the lizard walked. So we don't really want to do that. So we have all extremes, all kind of home remedies that we may use to eliminate symptoms. The truth is we need to understand exactly how these diseases work and to deal with them. In the case of asthma, for example, sometimes what the children eat, because we know that milky foods, lactose foods, produce a lot of secretions. We know that so hence no milk, no cheese, no well, some people don't know so bad on yogurt, but preferably no yogurt, nothing that's milky, right? Nothing that has that lactose origin. How you not eat a cereal? You don't have to eat cereal, okay? And then the cereal have too much flour that also produces a lot of secretions, right? So some of the cereals that we buy have a lot of flour and we give it to our children, right? So you don't want to give your kids the things that are going to trigger on that. If you have something like asthma, you also need to see what is it that you eat that makes you feel worse or feel better. And again, those milky foods are very, very, very big culprits in that state.
Right. So, Doc, let's take a short break. When we come back, we will take some more calls and we would continue our discussion. So with us, we'll be back in just a moment.
I've been using Omega XL for well over 10 years, and it's really a remarkable product. Some days I have some pretty bad pain, and it helps me to be able to go and to function. It's about quality of life. It's about treating with chronic inflammation. It's about living up to the best potential. If this could impact positively anyone out there, that would really make all of this worthwhile.
Live long and stay strong with Omega XL. Get results you can feel with the proven relief for inflammation pain that only Omega XL can provide. Go to your local pharmacy or health food store and get back to living with Omega XL.
You know, one day I woke up and, they painted a set of pedestrian crossing all along the streets. Nobody told us how to use that thing properly.
I know how.
You're serious?
Every safe, good driver knows about these things. As a driver, you have to be very attentive. You're coming up close to a pedestrian cross, you start slowing down immediately, looking to see if there's any pedestrian on the side getting ready to cross. If there is, you stop on the line that is a certain distance before the crosswalk. Then you would see the pedestrian put their hands out, looking directly at you, indicating that they are going to cross. And only when you have come to a complete stop, that is when they will quickly and safely cross to the other side. And then you continue happily on your journey.
Stop, look, hand out, eye contact, wait for pedestrian to cross. Then you happily continue on your journey. This message is brought to you by this group of insurance companies, the Traffic Advisory Body, and the Traffic Department.
GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us number one. News at 7, live, Monday to Friday, on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11, K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Dr. in Call, and tonight we're looking a bit at respiratory diseases. We've spoken a bit about asthma and COPD. Doc, maybe that may be the final one we can touch tonight in the interest of time. Common bronchitis. The bronchitis. We could talk about that, and maybe is there any relationship between bronchitis and asthma?
What? Because they're both diseases of the respiratory tract.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, bronchitis means so. If you look at your airways, you have your mouth, and then you have the big tube, your windpipe, or your trachea, that doubles into two bronchi, and then that forms like a tree with branches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Inflammation of the inflammation, swelling, redness, bacterial infection, whatever it is, of the bronchi, the two big ones coming off from the trachea, and the small bronchioles is bronchitis. Okay? And basically, listen, the only difference between between bronchitis and asthma is that you don't have the blood, the airways shrinking.
Okay.
You don't have the muscles contracting. But you may have allergic bronchitis because you're allergic to something, and you get a cough and the secretions coming out. You may have viral bronchitis, where a virus, you have the cold. You had RSV going on the other day, and everybody's getting bronchitis from the RSV, respiratory syncytial virus.
Mm-hmm.
We had some of the other flu viruses that cause us to have cough. And sometimes you have this prolonged cough with some of the viruses that we've had. You just then you cough. And you cough because your airways are inflamed, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. That's a protective mechanism to say, hey, I'm not really doing very good here. And then, of course, you can get inflammation of the bronchi from bacteria. It gets swollen, it gets red, it produces a secretion, it produces pus, it produces whatever it is in order to protect itself, to say, hey, something is wrong in here, help me out. That's what it is.
Right.
Sometimes bronchitis does not occur alone. It happens that the airways and the rest of the little sacs that are filled with air.
Yeah.
Right? That's when you have it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right? So, again, it might just be triggered off by the environment in which you live. And you've spoken a lot and passionately in the last few months about our environment. We are faced with a challenge. We are faced with challenges. So, the same dust you see, falling from the sky, or so there's a lot of construction going on. There's a lot of people spraying all kind of stuff to keep their plants well,
Mm-hmm.
and there are other things that people just allergic to. Same pet dander, dust in your house, very strong odors, and that's what other things that our asthmatics might respond to. Very, very strong odors, and like that cheap perfume that you can't miss when the guy passes.
Yeah,
that can trigger off your asthma. So
Right.
bronchitis is basically inflammation of the airways, the pipes, all those little tracts where the air passes to go towards the part of the sacs that have air. That is bronchitis.
Right. And so acute bronchitis, I came across this. Is this a sort of more severe form of bronchitis, I think?
No, but you might have simple acute bronchitis. You might just have a bronchitis that is there.
Mm-hmm.
It comes and it feels sick. That's acute. Acute means it just happened and it just kind of new. I haven't had this problem. I just sit on here and I get a cold And a cold is a superficial thing and it goes away in 3 days. But then day 5, day 6, I'm coughing, I'm sick, I have fever. But then listen to my chest. And I might wheeze, but I have wheezes when I'm breathing in.
Okay. That's all right. Okay. Let's go back to the
When you have bronchitis, you hear the wheezes, and then you hear other things like a lot of secretions, like things rubbing, and you hear, because you have a lot of secretions in the airway.
Okay. Wonderful.
When your chest starts to sound like a beatboxer.
Right. So, folks, the telephone line is open. The number is 435-2041. You can give us a call if you have any questions you would like to ask about any respiratory condition. You can definitely do so. The number again, 435-2041. We usually hear people speak of their sinus the sinus, but I'll come to that. Let's take the call, and we'll come back to that shortly.
Okay.
Doctor and call. Good evening. Hello.
I think people having connectivity problems.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello?
Good evening, caller. Good evening, caller. Go ahead, please.
Yes, hello, good night.
Yes, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, I have...
So, caller, you need to turn the volume of your TV down a little bit.
I've had asthma as a child. I've had...
He's having communication issues.
Okay, let me start over.
Yes, start
Okay, good night, Dr. Nixon, and good night, sir.
Hi.
Yes, thank you.
As I was saying, I had asthma as a child. I have had asthma, bronchitis, pneumonia, pleurisy, the whole works. And I actually got over most of it in my teenage years, thanks to my grandmother, whom Dr. Nixon knows very well. But after Ivan, I inhaled a lot of smoke by burning stuff and whatnot, and I got back a severe attack. I tend to have had asthma attacks, when I inhaled smoke, but I never had wheezing. But last week, Friday before, I woke up in the night and I heard myself wheezing. By morning, I was very, very congested. And I had a pump, because since after they said COVID, I bought a new pump. And I didn't really have to use it. But I used the pump, and it sort of cleared up. Then I started to get the mucus on my lungs. Tuesday, I ended up having to go to the doctor. I had to be nebulized. And so the congestion has stopped after I used the puff and all of that, but I still had a lot of mucus on the lungs. Even this morning, I was bringing up a little of the mucus. So I would like to know what would have triggered. I didn't have any smoke. I didn't have any dust that I know of, but I don't know now what it is or what should I do.
Did you have a cold, Ungo? Did you have a cold?
Caller?
She's gone?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yes.
So that's a very good question. Remember, we keep talking about these environmental toxins, and we don't know what is there and where it is. And sometimes, this lady really kind of encompasses all we've been talking about asthma tonight. You have it, you get sick, you do what you have to do, it doesn't happen, it may come, it may not come.
Mm-hmm.
And that hyper-responsiveness occurs when there's something that will trigger it off. The other thing, you notice how quickly she deteriorated.
Yeah.
When I think the next day.
Yes.
And that's the thing about her. I had a friend like that. She would get a common cold today, and today's what? Tuesday night? By Thursday morning, she has a full-blown pneumonia. So whatever this thing is, it goes all the way down into her lungs and affect very deeply into her lungs, right? To get high inflammation. The truth is, maybe this lady came in contact with one of the what we call the allergens, the thing that your body doesn't like, right? That triggered off her asthma attack. She probably can't hear herself wheezing, because patients would tell me they're not wheezing. I said, go on a bed, let me listen to your chest. And there's a young harpist, not even harpist, a violinist, right? The truth is, you must insist that your doctor listens. And like I tell my patients, take a deep breath in, and blow out strong like you're blowing candles. Right? That way you can try and get as much air out as possible, and it does help to discern whether or not there's wheezing. What I advise you, lady, to do is keep on using your inhaler, especially your rescue inhaler. And if you have your brown inhalers, you really should use them because you probably have had underlying inflammation that really you did not feel. Because remember I talked about the threshold, about how much people feel, how much you're able to tolerate. It's going higher and higher. That could be one of the situations. Or maybe just you just quickly went and developed an asthmatic scenario.
Right. Doc, let me ask this. So someone doesn't have asthma, but probably because they had the cold or something, they had some little blocks, and so they decided to use the puff. Is that recommended?
So there's some side effects of the pump that you have to be very careful of, right? If I have a family history, I would use it. Right. If I have other people in my family who have asthma, I will tend to take that chance. I don't know anybody who will give you a pump if you're not wheezing. And I won't use anybody else's medications. I tell people, when you're doubt, go let somebody listen to your chest. Let somebody who has responsibility for you, who understands and knows better, right? And make them responsible for whatever you do. Don't just use medications just like that. Unless, like in the case of this lady, she's had asthma before. She knows she's had asthma. So she's reusing her medicine. She kept doing COVID for safety, and now she's reusing it. So that should help her. Mm-hmm. The truth is, if you have a full-blown asthmatic attack, you need your bronchodilator, you need your steroid to ease the inflammation that's been there and that's probably been there quite a while, and you need something to break up the cold. So whatever you use as a what we call a mucolytic, that's why I tell you can actually inhale, because when the steam gets onto the secretions, that it kind of loosens it, right? And you can cough. But mucolytic, we use without a Brohex. I'm not supposed to call brand names, but Brohex is what we use a lot. And there's another called Bisolvon. But you don't want someone to stop the cough, but that's going to make you more constricted. You want something that will break up the secretion. So if you want to drink onion juice, honey and bob one day, I don't care what it is. Whatever breaks up your cold, all right? That's what you want to do. But you have to drink a lot of fluids. Once you feel that thing coming on, start fluidifying those making it moist, as damp as possible, so you can get those secretions out.
Right. So, Doc, if you have symptoms that seem to be more disabling than symptoms of a regular cold, or if you have trouble catching your breath, you should call your healthcare provider. So, for example...
No. You should go and see your healthcare provider.
Right. So, for example...
Because if you call me, there's nothing I can do for you, okay?
Right. So, for example, if there is a delay in recovery, recurrent symptoms after discovery, shortness of breath,
high fever.
Yes, the other one that I'm very concerned about here, vomiting or spitting up blood and swelling.
Well, blood in general, whether I spit it up or it comes from some. And I was going to speak to the blood. If you already have blood, you're in a bad way, because it means that the lung tissue, not just the airways, is quite affected.
Okay.
And it's breaking down, and you're breaking blood vessels and all of that. So if you're coughing up blood, you're not in a good space. Okay? Fever, yes. And the reason why we vomit is because we cough so much that we kind of trigger off the stomach to vomit. Most people, that's why they would cough.
Right. And there's also the swelling. If you have swelling or puffiness in your hands and feet, this could be a symptom of a serious respiratory or cardiac problem, and you should get medical attention.
Right. So that's when we look at what else can make you feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking like this. I know I have asthma. I've been diagnosed with asthma. And that's what I'm having now because my doctor says that's what it is. But there are other conditions. Kidney failure. Right? Where kidney can't filter out the secretions you have, the fluids. Because everything's supposed to go to the kidney, and it says, I don't want that. Some of you water go out, right? Heart problems, right? Which comes with swelling of your feet. The kidneys come with swelling of your hands, swelling of your face, right? Swelling of your feet. So once you have other conditions, you may eat them. Having hyperthyroidism, where thyroid is overactive, the thyroid gland, which is your neck, is overactive, you can actually have, that can be the reason why you feel that you have shortness of breath. Do you understand? If your thyroid grows sufficiently to grow down into your chest, it can cause you to have breathing challenges. So,
right. There's another one, and this one, I actually knew of someone who actually died. Aspiration pneumonia. The coughing of bronchitis can make you choke on your food if you cough while eating. This can cause the food that you eat to go down the wrong pipe into your lungs instead of your stomach.
Yeah, and the chances of that happening with you and me walking around every day and everything is very small, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like if it's something gone on your throat, you're gonna cough and cough.
Cough, yes, cough it out. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you who's at risk. Who's at risk is that old lady or that old man or that disabled child who's lying in their bed, or your little child who can't tell you. Right? That yes, when I was getting my bottle, and the kids who can feed themselves, they lie on the bed and they fall asleep and some of it goes on into their lungs, right? Causing a pneumonia, which is an inflammation of the soft lung tissue, not the airways, all right? Because milk drain on or food drain on your chest and you don't know, right? It causes a lot of irritation and it's a foreign body. Your body don't like foreigners coming and hang out in it, right? So aspiration pneumonia, I've seen a child who was in an accident and she was vegetative and she aspired. I've seen another child who was born and had complications with jaundice and had a stroke. And at 3, they fed her and put her down and thought she was okay. And she aspirated and died. I've seen older people who have aspirated, and somebody who died recently who had aspiration pneumonia and died. So it is a possibility. So you want to put them on their side, okay? If the person is disabled, you feed them, probably come back, but you want to put them on their side. So if there's anything that would more than likely drain out, right? If you think they may have aspirated, means sucked up, right? Some of whatever secretions are given them, they say go down in the wrong throat. That's what you want to say, right? But it means it didn't go down in the right space. It didn't go into the gullet. It went into the windpipe, and that's what we don't want because people can actually really die.
Right, wonderful indeed, and of course pneumonia. Finally,
yes. So pneumonia, and we have this one with lung cancer, but it's a whole new book, right?
Yes.
Pneumonia, like I said, is the inflammation of the tissues surrounding the lung. And the lady who spoke to us again, she had the whole gamut. She was really a very good example of how respiratory diseases work. Pneumonia is the inflammation of the softer tissue of the lung. That everything that's soft. You've seen what they call it. How do they call it? What's the local name for lung? Light. Right. When that softy thing, not the airways, not when you cut, you see some circles. That's the airways, right? So you can take a piece of pipe, a PVC, and you cut it across, right? And when you cut the lung, you just see spaces, right? Very well defined spaces. Those would have been that's cutting across a part of the airways. The other soft tissue, which is composed basically of those like alveoli, right, where the air exchange takes place, right, is where you have pneumonia. So all the bacteria and all the goo gets in between. Which is why when we had COVID and all these people had all of the secretion in their lung, they died. People drowned in their own secretions because they had so much secretion that adverse. What's interesting is how the coronavirus worked is similar to how asthma is triggered off, except it is even more extreme. So you come in contact with the virus goes down, right? And it tells your body, hey, I have a visitor. Somebody strange is hanging around, right? And your body starts responding, right? And it triggers your body to respond extreme. So extreme to the point because you need a little secretions to cough it out, don't you? Right? And that same virus made you produce secretions like a fountain.
And then that became your problem. Right.
In the case of pneumonia, however, Sometimes you could have pneumonia between where you have the airways affected and part of the lung. That's called bronchopneumonia, right? Or you can have just pneumonia where you have a part of the lung affected. Again, most likely in people who have severe disease, severe debilitating disease, people who have HIV, people whose immune system is quite compromised, like HIV. We saw it in our patients with COVID. We see it in children who are disabled, whose immune system is compromised. They're not out there running up and down and eating mango and climbing tree and breathing and doing the stuff. And of course, as you said, extremes of ages, right? Who can't cough, who lose their cough reflex, right? Children, babies who don't know how to cough yet. We have to figure out when something is going wrong. And every age group and every age group across the continuum of life have different manifestations of when they have a bronchitis. For example, seniors hardly have fever or pneumonia. Seniors hardly have fever. But a senior probably can't tell you, a senior who has dementia can't tell you, when I breathe, it hurts. A baby can't tell you, he'll probably be crying and afraid to cry because every time he breathes, it hurts. Every time he stops to take the breath, even when he coughs, there's pain, right? And you have to listen to your patient. We have to listen to our patient's chest, even with the mildest of symptoms. Right? Because it starts good today and ends up being chaotic tomorrow.
Right.
Most people with pneumonias need antibiotics most times. Sometimes it helps to prevent, even if you have a viral pneumonia, it causes because of virus, and viruses are not treated with antibiotics, right? Viruses are treated with support therapy because you don't have anything that really kills a virus. There's nobody would dead from COVID. Okay. Right. Even then, the doctor may still give you antibiotics because once you have all of that infection and inflammation down there, there's some opportunist virus. There's some opportunist bacteria that will come on, recognizing that you are actually debilitated and want to make take advantage.
Take advantage, yes, that's right.
So that is why, even if it's a viral condition, your doctor may still put you on a course of antibiotics because the bacteria will find a place to grow. Because he's not very well. Right. Let me take advantage and jump in his chest and try and kill him off.
Right. So, and finally, so we spoke about a number of conditions here: asthma, COPD, bronchitis, and then pneumonia. Is there a correlation between all of these?
It's the respiratory tract.
Yes.
It is the respiratory tract. And again, extremes of ages, you'll see it happening more. People who are not mobile, right? So if you're just overweight and just sit down there not moving, you don't exercise. If you have some predisposition, especially like family, right? So it may all be tied up. And some people just get what they get because they get what they get with no actual relationships to anything else. But it's your respiratory tract. The mucosa is thin. You can become compromised very easily. And depends on how well your body is able to take it. It can actually end up in death, even if it is just a little bronchitis.
Right. Okay.
And before we go, I don't know if anybody, I really want us to talk just for a little while, for 2 minutes, on this whole heat wave. I'm really very concerned, and I tell you who I'm concerned about. Again, the people in extremes of ages, babies who can't talk, little children whose parents say they need to give them sugar sweetened beverages because it's kind of hot. Older people who can't articulate that they're thirsty because they lose their sense of thirst. And all of us who would rather buy a sweet drink than get some water. It is very important that you rehydrate, that you take in a lot of fluids. They say 8 to 10 glasses for an adult. But I'm going to advise people in Grenada, if you're going to drink water from the tap. I love Nawasa, but I think we have to do better because the water I've had in my pipe for the last month and it's still yellow. Looks like I dropped some, what the yellow thing name? The iodine in there, right? It's still light yellow. I'm going to ask people to make sure and boil the water for 10 to 15 minutes. When it starts boiling, leave it on, and then you put it to cool. Let the sediments there, and then if you have a cloth, right? Strain it through the cloth, like a muslin cloth or cheesecloth. That helps, right? Strain it, boil your water, and pack it in the fridge for your kids, especially. Give them water to go to school. Ease up on the sugar sweetened beverages, please, because we're going to just get fat like the Mexican kids who drink Coke because there's very little water available up in Mexico City. Don't forget that you have to boil and boil. If you can afford to buy bottled water, buy bottled water. It comes in harder bottles because it's really, you don't want to be getting toxins from the bottle, right? But buy bottled water and make sure you get relatively healthy water. And there's other thing, we have coconut water, which would help if you're really dehydrated and feeling tired. You need to. But look out for the people who can't look out for themselves. Look out for the people who are shut-ins, right? I've asked my mother to go feed her chickens before the sun come up 8 o'clock in the morning. Make sure your chicken eat by then because you don't need to go back outside. I have concern for people who have jobs outside, like construction men who come to work for 9 o'clock. And maybe we're going to have to rethink because, okay, this episode of this heat wave should be lasting until August, September. It doesn't mean that we're not going to get a little respite now and then. We hope we do. But that is one of the manifestations of climate change. We have to remember that. It's not business as usual. So, people who work outside, farmers, construction workers, delivery truck people, all of those who are up and down in the sun, on a day, on the back, the garbage collectors, we are probably going to have to reschedule our employment moves, right? Because it's really too hot for men to be up there putting on zinc roof at 2 o'clock in the day.
It is.
You shouldn't be out there more than 15 minutes, right? It's really too hot for people to be doing doing roadside work. I think I was up at 5:30 and it was like daylight. I was up at 4:30 and you could already see the dawn kind of coming in, but by 5 o'clock you can go outside and the sun colors. I think that's probably a blessing to us, and we should see how best can we do this? How best can we minimize the hours that we spend out in this hot weather, right? When you open your windows at the night, but in the morning, put on heavy drapery so that cool air that you've trapped stays in the house. I feel badly for people who have galvanized roofs without ceiling because all that heat just penetrates into your house. If you can get some ceiling, it will be good. If you have a fan, please use a fan, right? I know we're out of mosquitoes. Get rid of whatever causes the mosquitoes. But please, we need to rehydrate. We need to wear thin clothing, light clothing, like, you see the Arabs wear the white thing. Yeah. You see the Arabs in the desert, the white thing they wear. The desert is very hot, but the humidity is low. And here we have, some days we have very high humidity, some days the humidity not so high, right? Light clothing. You can wear light breezy clothing. You don't want to wear black suit like I did today, except that I wasn't going out in the sun. Okay? You want to wear lighter clothing and clothing that are cottony, not necessarily synthetics. Right. I know we like to show off soft bodies in all the bodycon dresses and all the rest. This is not a clothing for that because those things are not compatible with the time. Always make sure that you have a bottle of water with you to remind you that you can take a sip to drink, right? When it gets to a certain point, you fill it back up, right? We talk about the clothing. Cover your skin as much as possible. You might want to say, oh, it's so hot, I shouldn't, I need to cover up. I need to wear little clothes. No, because there's also the whole thing of sun rays, okay? That can burn your skin. Wear light colored clothing. We said light clothing, light colored. Wear a hat. You see the Asian women always have this big old hat when they're outside walking. They don't want no sun to burn them. Wear a hat, right? In order to prevent yourself from being exposed to so much sunlight and so much sun rays. They ask us to avoid alcohol and caffeinated beverages. Do you know why? Why shouldn't you drink?
It's carbon.
You gonna catch a fire? No. I'm gonna give you 0 tonight, Godfrey.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of carbon in there, and the.
No, it's the sugar sweetened beverages, the caffeinated drinks make you really hot. and alcohol. So it enhances dehydration. All right? Monitor your blood pressure, because sometimes, remember you're talking about environment and increasing your blood pressure and making you irritable and all the rest of it when it gets very hot, environmental changes. So stay indoors, especially between 12 and 3 o'clock. So that's what I'm saying. For people who are doing construction work, especially on rooftop, and wearing heavy clothing and, heavy protective clothing they should wear, this whole 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock thing is not going to cut it.
Right.
Take baths in cold water before going to bed, right? There's no need to turn on your heater like you turn it on in December. In December, we probably needed it. No, you don't know. Okay? It's cool. Sponge your children down. If you think they're hot in the night, just put a cold compress all over them. Make your children drink water in the night as well to keep cool. All right? We said take cold baths. And of course, stay indoors as far as you can. I worry about what is going to happen. But I'm going to ask us to be good citizens and good neighbors to the people who live next door, who can't take care of themselves. One drove 2 buckets of water so they can have water to put in the thing. Put some, if they don't have fridge, get them some ice so they can at least have cooler water. But we have to look out for each other in this time. There's no need for people to be dead in their house for 3 and 4 days and nobody.
That's right.
So we kind of have to get back to being neighborly again. And of course, give our children water. There's nothing like water for taking care of us and making us healthy.
Right, indeed. Well, Doc, thank you very much. That's all the time we have tonight, folks. It's already gone past 10 o'clock. We thank you for staying with us, our friends on Facebook, Money and Yulin and all the others. We thank you so very much for staying with us. And, of course, we're looking forward to be back next Tuesday evening for another Doctor on Call.
There's one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think of Carnival and the heat, and people would think it's probably a good thing to wear the least possible clothes. The answer is no.
Right.
Because then you absorb so much more sun rays, and there's just so much heat going on. So Carnival, I could wear the dental floss outfit. I don't think so.
Right. Yes, indeed, folks. So thank you very much. Those of you who call with your questions, we do thank you. We do appreciate it. And, of course, we hope that you would continue to call and to be part of the program. Until tomorrow, please God, do have a good night. All the best.
Night.